The hill holds the building the way a palm holds a stone, firmly, without squeezing. Arkham sits there above the river's dark sweep, its old mansard roofline and observatory dome gathering moonlight into patient shapes. Windows, tall and narrow, make lanterns of themselves in the hours when Gotham's lower streets glitter and hiss. From this distance, the city sounds are a felt thing rather than a heard one, a hum folded into the ribs of night. The asylum accepts that hum and keeps its own tempo. Slow radiators, measured keys, the soft whisk of someone turning a page. Within the main entrance hall, tile remembers many shoes. Cream hexagons edged in charcoal form a carpet that does not wear out, only grows more certain of its pattern. The mosaic crest set into the floor, Arkham, keeps its serifed letters even where time has tried to make them blur. A hanging clock with a cracked crystal keeps the hour honestly enough for a place that measures progress by seasons rather than minutes. Its second hand forgets itself for a beat now and then continues, innocent of apology. Stone in the foundation holds a faint salt smell when rain blows in off the bay. Brick in the walls offers a warmer scent on winter nights, like oven-fired clay. Layered paint on railings has thickened into enamel hills under the palm. Everywhere, wood. Banisters rubbed to silk by decades of hands. Doorframes with pencil marks hidden beneath paint. A tall case records cabinet that refuses to tilt, though its floorboards slope. The building is a memory palace that learned to be useful before it learned to be grand. The night staff moves through this geography with the authority of routine. A ring of keys rests against a belt, a low jingle contained with each step. A thermos warm enough to be felt even through gloves rides in a pocket. A badge swings and comes to rest again and again against the same stitch on the same scrub top. The lamp above the medication window throws an oval of gold onto ledger paper as if to bless legibility itself. A pen taps once, twice. Pills whisper like small hail into paper cups. On the north ward, the radiator murmurs like a contented kettle. An orderly glances in on a sleeping wing and closes a door halfway, not to hide anything, but to mark kindness, warmth kept where warmth belongs. The walk continues past framed sepia prints of the asylum under construction. Scaffolds and wheelbarrows, men in caps whose faces are stern with the seriousness of building a story that would outlive them. The caption under one photograph has faded so that only two words still claim themselves: overlooking river. Records wait, as they always do. In the administration annex, binders sit with their spines outward, in long rows with years for titles. Early volumes keep handwriting on onion skin with the weight of fountain pens, the nibs catching and releasing the paper like oars in a slow current. Later entries standardize into stamped boxes and typed lines that flatten particulars into columns. Between them, a file folder holds a run of journal pages by the founder himself. Copies, not the originals, but the copies have learned their own gravity in this air. The inked script is neat without being precious. The hand writes of contagions of the spirit and of therapies that must proceed at the pace of a patient's weather, and then, in a leaner line, of the need to remember beauty even in the presence of ache. The ward lamps at night are dimmed to discourage shadow play. They make halos where brass doorplates are kept polished and wash the scuffs on the baseboards with an honesty that refuses to be unkind. Linens are folded, as if folding could solve a problem, and sometimes the folding is a solution of its own. A book sits closed on a cart, square and serious with a cloth cover, as if rest itself were a treatment. Arkham's grounds extend farther than the city remembers. Even after new wings press closer to the road and modern security glass replaced wavering panes, there remain acres of older lawn and a semi-wild orchard beyond the service drive. Tonight, the orchard keeps its breath in the branches, every twig a pencil mark against the sky. Wind is present, but not ambitious. The greenhouse on the far edge shows a low glow under its frosted roof, like a lantern under a scarf. Inside, a patient kind of botany practices itself without fuss. Misting lines ticking under timers, broad leaves turning their faces half an inch toward a bulb's kindly sun. The soil smelling of bags sliced open with pocket knives. A small placard lists genera and watering cadences in block letters. Someone has propped a handwritten note against the hose reel. Please keep the door latched. We have visitors who prefer to stay plants. Down a level, the sub-basements run cool as a held breath. Pipes parade along the ceilings, labeled in paint older than some of the night staff. The chill lends the concreted dignity usually reserved for monuments. In one chamber, frost has picked out tiny white stars along the metal of a sealed door. What lies beyond that door is the temperature of a thought that refuses to warm. Another room hums with a refrigerated patience that will not be hurried in today. The lights down here prefer to be exact and narrow, illuminating work surfaces and leaving corridors to inhabit their shade. The quiet acquires a texture, cloth against cloth, a clipboard set down gently, a distant click translated through metal into a soft, affirming knock. Upstairs, the oldest ward carries its Victorian bones under the renovations like a musician carries scales beneath a melody. High ceilings make space for silence to settle gently. Arched windows resist merely becoming institutional by continuing to act like church windows for secular weather, rain, fog, and the trustworthiness of sunrise. The paths along the walls are known, a nurse's steps counting softly past door 21, a clinician pausing twice before room 14 because room 14 always receives the second pause as an ordinary courtesy. This wing's clock presents 2 minutes slow, and everyone here considers it the true time. Names live in Arkham, as any city of rooms keeps names. Some are spoken like lullabies on chart rounds. Some are used only in conference notes because the nights sleep better if certain syllables stay folded. In the art therapy room, shelf edges are furred with charcoal and pastel dust. A plastic tub of battered brushes smells faintly of linseed, and the sink keeps a thin ring where ultramarine and soot have negotiated a truce. On a bulletin board, a collage of torn magazines has made a landscape out of advertisements. A torn red shoe has become a roof. Clouds are all cut from sweaters. A single printed sign, laminated long ago, asks for cap lids to be replaced so the colors learn to last. The library offers a truer quiet than hallways can. Paper, cloth, leather at the spine where old municipal covers still exist. A soft shade pulled down against Blair. The card catalog remains like a memory of order even though its work has been supplanted. Someone long ago slipped a note into one drawer, a list of titles under the heading Calm Reading, and the card remains typed on a machine that had a stubborn lowercase e. Volumes of field guides to birds live next to slim books of poems. Atlases neighbor 19th century psychiatric texts whose margins are crowded with penciled argument and penciled amens. The librarian's chair has learned the specific creak that says, "Welcome." Not every story in these rooms requires headline names for gravity. A man who hums scales before speaking because speaking once scattered him. A woman who prefers to talk to plants until she can remember how to talk to people. A teenager who keeps a notebook of fine-lined cityscapes in which every window is lit at dusk. Each drawing adds one more light like a kept promise. Nurses know these details because nursing is a practice of noticing. Orderlies know them because orderlies are entrusted with the hours between official acts. The place becomes itself by how it holds these particulars. There are places in Arkham where Gotham remembers itself more kindly. A weathered stone bench under the sycamores along the riverside invites bodies that have been sitting in hard chairs to change their minds. A plaque inset in the bench's base quotes a sentence about patients that a benefactor preferred to be anonymous for.
In the courtyard, the koi pond keeps its dark coin of water and its more interesting gossip. Leaves that become boats, stars that become fish if you let your eyes rest. The fencing around the pond has been repaired twice in the same spot for reasons no logbook can explain. A small wooden box near the door holds folded paper for wishes no one admits to making. Security has its own rituals, none of them romanticized, all of them thorough. Log entries signed and countersigned, camera monitors with their calm mosaics, magnetic locks that tell their secrets to each other with clearer honesty than people can afford. Every system is layered with the recognition that failure may one day occur, and the layers are what kindness looks like when kindness also must be stern. Even this, in the midnight hour, develops its hush. The radios clipped to belts whisper in short words that travel well. The screens glow as if they believe in horizons, and a breath now and then reminds.
The morning at Arkham begins with the kind of light that does not rush its work. Dawn filters through the high, narrow windows, as if unsure whether the asylum requires it yet. In the east-facing corridors, the first pale gold arrives slantwise, settling on brass door handles and the polished edges of picture frames. The halls seem to absorb this light rather than reflect it, making it something one feels in the skin before noticing it with the eyes. The hill outside carries frost in small shaded hollows where the grass keeps its brittle white coat until well after breakfast. Thin trails of breath lift from the mouths of early staff on their way from the lower parking lot. The sound of their shoes shifts as they move from asphalt to gravel to the poured concrete apron of the main entrance. Somewhere under the front steps, a boiler stirs itself into the rhythm that will last until night. The reception hall smells faintly of coffee, paper, and wool. On the central desk, a logbook lies open, its ruled lines stretching back to yesterday's neat columns. A pen rests parallel to the spine, its cap pushed on with the deliberate click of someone who knows the difference between closing and sealing. Beside the desk, the coat rack leans under the weight of scarves in practical colors, gray, navy, and the deep green of uniforms long retired but still in circulation among the staff. From here, the building's internal geography branches like a river delta. To the left, administrative offices with blinds tilted against glare. To the right, the patient wards, where the air holds a soft combination of starch from linens and the faint mineral tang of tap water in porcelain basins. Straight ahead, a long corridor that will, after several bends, lead to the occupational therapy wing, the library, and eventually the greenhouse. In the occupational therapy rooms, the day's materials have already been set out. Spools of thread in muted colors wait beside cloth stretched in embroidery hoops. Clay rests under damp cloth to keep it pliable until hands arrive to shape it. The faint scent of sawdust suggests someone finished sanding a small project yesterday, a shelf perhaps, or a simple box. Sunlight falls through the high windows, turning the suspended dust into a slow, deliberate snowfall. One room over, the art therapy space keeps its clutter as carefully as other rooms keep their order. Brushes lean in jars of rinsing water, clouded to pale blues and grays. The floor near the easels wears a map of dried drips in ochres, crimsons, and viridians, each a pin marking a moment when a color left its container. Against the back wall, a row of completed canvases faces inward, their painted surfaces protected from stray light until they can be sealed. Some show landscapes with impossible skies.
Others, still lifes with fruit rendered in such detail that one can almost feel the waxy skin of an apple. Beyond these rooms, the library waits in its own particular silence. The lamps here are shaded to cast their light downward, respecting the privacy of pages. Books range from medical reference texts to slim poetry volumes whose spines have faded to illegibility. A low table holds a stack of newspapers, folded to the crossword section, and a pencil cup filled with stubs worn down from long consideration. The card catalog still stands, though most of its drawers are empty now. In one of the remaining drawers, a note written years ago still asks, "Do not reshelve without checking with Miriam." Miriam is long retired, but the note remains, respected more as ritual than instruction. In the greenhouse, warmth collects like a stored season. Glass panes fog along their lower edges where the night air lingers, but higher up the sun has already made them clear. Rows of potted herbs release their scents when touched. Rosemary's resin, mint's cool sharpness. The hum of the timed misting system comes at regular intervals, followed by the soft patter of droplets meeting leaves. In one corner, a patient sits with a small cactus in a clay pot, a spray bottle balanced on one knee. The cactus wears a tiny bloom, a bright flag against the muted earth. Farther out on the grounds, the orchard stands quiet under the pale sky. Frost clings to the bark of the older trees, tracing the deep fissures like veins. Last year's leaves lie matted underfoot, their shapes blurred by moisture and time. A path, more suggestion than fact, runs between the rows toward the perimeter fence. Beyond the fence, Gotham's skyline lifts itself in gray and glass, softened by distance and the thin morning haze rising from the river. Inside, the wards begin their slow stirring. Doors open and close without hurry. Breakfast trays roll down the corridors, the wheels of the cart keeping time on the tile. The scent of oatmeal and tea precedes the cart, a warm announcement of something dependable. In the day room, chairs are arranged in a loose semicircle facing the television, which murmurs a news broadcast no one seems to watch closely. A chessboard sits mid-game on a side table, the black bishop poised as if in thought. Staff move among these spaces with quiet competence. Clipboards change hands. Schedules are confirmed with a nod rather than a word. A nurse pauses at a window to adjust the blinds, letting in just enough light to lift the room without glaring. An orderly picks up a drugged scarf and folds it neatly on the back of a chair. These gestures are not dramatic, but in a place like Arkham, they are the architecture of trust. The records room remains cool despite the building's central heating. Metal filing cabinets stand in ordered rows, their drawers labeled with dates and patient numbers. Some of the labels are written in a careful, looping hand from decades ago. Others are printed in block letters from more recent years. On the desk in the center, a ledger lies open to an entry written in fountain pen. The ink has browned with age, but the words are still legible. A note about a patient's progress in regaining interest in familiar tasks. Down the hall, the chapel is empty, except for the lingering scent of beeswax from last night's candle. The stained glass holds the morning light in muted blues and greens, casting soft shapes on the worn wooden pews. On the back pew, the small carved bat remains, its edges darkened by the oils of many curious fingertips. The journal on the lectern is open to a recent entry written in careful, deliberate script. "It was quiet today. I think the quiet helped." By midday, the building has found its rhythm. The radiator pipes click softly as they expand and contract. Somewhere in the administration wing, a typewriter, still in occasional use, keeps up a slow, deliberate pace. The scent of soup drifts from the staff kitchen. Lentil today, with the sharp sweetness of onions cooked just to the point of transparency. Outside, a light wind shifts the bare branches along the drive, making them tap gently against one another. There are places in Arkham that resist time's tidy progression. In the north stairwell, a small window looks out over the lawn toward the river. The paint on its frame is cracked, and the glass has a faint ripple from the old way of making panes. Through it, the water reflects a pale winter sun, and the city beyond seems almost like a memory rather than a fact. In the basement, an unused laundry room still holds the scent of starch and the pale outlines where machines once stood. The tiles here are chipped but clean, each one holding its place in the grid without complaint. Staff on the afternoon shift bring a change in tone, slightly more voices in the hallways, a quicker pace in the exchange of charts. Yet even with this, the atmosphere remains measured. The work here is not in speed, but in constancy. Each interaction, each observation builds on the last, the way layers of paint eventually create a surface that resists wear. As the day turns toward evening, light leaves the rooms gradually, as if excusing itself without wanting to interrupt. The lamps are switched on one by one, their warm pool.
Evening in Arkham does not arrive all at once. It drifts in, as if reluctant to claim the rooms from the steady work of the day. The first signs are subtle, the way shadows lengthen across the long hallway tiles, the cooling of air in the stairwell where the radiator pipes do not quite reach, the dimming of the greenhouse's late sunlight until only the reflection of the lamps remains in the glass. The wards soften their activity. Conversations drop in volume. Footsteps slow to a measured rhythm. The air changes texture. Less movement, more weight in the stillness. Even the ever-present hum of the city beyond the hill seems to press itself flat, content to exist as a faint, steady backdrop rather than a force. In the day room, the chairs are arranged in a familiar arc. The television, still murmuring the evening news, paints small flashes of color onto the pale wall. A few patients watch with passing interest, but the screen is not the point. The room itself, with its warmth and low light, is the destination. A chessboard sits abandoned mid-game on the side table, a white knight and a black rook in a standoff that will remain until morning. Beside it, a half-completed crossword rests beneath a stub of pencil, the last clue left unanswered, perhaps deliberately. The corridors leading to the wards have their own personality at night. The electric sconces along the walls cast narrow beams downward, leaving the ceiling in shadow. The flooring reflects just enough light to guide the way, but not enough to erase the sense of distance between one pool of illumination and the next. The occasional ring of a telephone in the nurse's station breaks the rhythm, but the sound is quickly swallowed by the building's thicker quiet. In the occupational therapy wing, the day's tools have been put away. Brushes are rinsed and placed bristles up in their jars. The damp cloths that kept the clay workable are folded and set aside.
Finished pieces, whether useful or decorative, sit on a shelf by the window, catching what little moonlight has begun to creep in. The scent of wood shavings remains, faint but persistent, as if the room holds on to the work done here like a kind of memory. The library's lamps glow warmly against the darkening sky outside. A single reader sits at one of the oak tables, a thick blanket pulled over their knees, eyes moving steadily across the page. The card catalog drawer left slightly ajar earlier in the day has been closed, the sound of its slide muffled by the thick rug. On the shelf nearest the door, a small gap marks where a book was borrowed earlier. No one rushes to fill it. In this place, absence is not disorder. It is simply another way to mark time. Outside, the grounds hold on to the last of the day's warmth. The orchard is black against the western sky, its branches etched with frost that glints briefly before the light fully fades. The gravel paths crunch softly under the boots of an orderly making rounds. From the greenhouse, the low glow of heat lamps spills onto the grass, creating a sharp border between the light plants and the dark earth beyond. The koi pond in the courtyard reflects the moon as a distorted, moving coin. The fish drift lazily under the surface, their pale forms ghostly in the rippling water. A bench nearby sits empty, though the seat still holds a trace of the day's sun. Above it, bare branches stretch against the stars, their silhouettes making delicate patterns that shift with the night air. The chapel, always quieter than the rest of the building, holds its light differently. Candles stand unlit on the altar, but the wall sconces cast a soft wash of gold over the wood. The small carved bat on the back pew catches the light on its rounded wings, as though prepared to lift from the surface. On the lectern, the journal is opened to a blank page, the pen resting diagonally across it, a silent invitation for the next entry, whenever it may come. In the records room, the air is cooler still. The cabinets stand like sentinels in the dimness, each drawer's label a reminder of years that do not touch the present moment. A clock ticks softly on the far wall, keeping time in a way that feels detached from the life outside these drawers. On the desk, a ledger lies open to an entry from decades ago, its ink browned, its handwriting looping and deliberate. The note reads, "Patient took comfort in the familiar song of the radiator." Night rounds move quietly. Keys turn in locks without haste. Clipboards are updated with brief notations, each page folded back to reveal the next. Nurses stop at doors to listen before moving on, their shoes making no more noise than the faint rustle of their uniforms. In the staff kitchen, a kettle hisses softly, releasing steam into the air, scented faintly of chamomile and peppermint. A chipped mug, well used, waits by the sink. From certain upper windows, Gotham's lights are visible in the distance, clusters of yellow and white that tremble slightly in the thin air above the river. The skyline is both near and impossibly far, like a memory half remembered in the dark. No sound from the city reaches this height. Here, Arkham keeps its own kind of silence. By the time the moon has climbed above the hill, the asylum's breathing has slowed entirely. The wards have settled into their night rhythm, a mix of sleeping breaths and the occasional faint murmur. The building itself seems to settle deeper into the ground. Its timbers and stone hold warmth for the long hours ahead. In the north stairwell, the small window catches the moonlight, casting a pale square onto the landing. The paint around its frame is rough beneath the hand, the glass faintly rippled. Through it, the river gleams in thin silver lines, and the city remains a quiet scatter of light in the distance. Somewhere deep in the building, a radiator gives a single, contented click. The sound is so small it might be missed entirely, but here it feels like a signal. The day is done. The quiet rooms on the hill have given themselves over to the night, each one holding its own small, unseen story until morning comes again.